Okay, so now we want to add definitely a lot more shading. Okay, so we might need some fresh burnt umber. This has been sitting here for a while. Alright, so just a little pea is all you need. And then you can come right in there on the side of your fresh paint very easily. It's side load to pick up a little bit of that shading. So we never did shade underneath the bottom of our little balls either. Okay, so you definitely want to come up and add all your shading there. And then pick a side. So if it's on the underside or, a bigger side, you can just add a little bit more of that dimension on the one side. A bit more on an angle. Subtle. Right, and then you want to add a little bit of shading underneath your stems too. Okay, you're going to come around, shade around the back side of the bottom, and then you're going to shade it under this guy. Okay, just until the area where it disappears in the white. Just fade it out. Okay, if you feel like you need to put more shading in, you can always pop in a little bit more. Okay, and then again, a little bit more shading right underneath. Okay, helps connect them. Right, and like I said, you can always go in as a tiny little bit of more shading if you feel like you want it along your edges, but not too much, guys, because like I said, it darkens it too much. Right. And then under here, these are just those little extra details that make the calla lily pop. Okay, so this is a little bit of an advanced one, and I hope you liked all these little extra advanced tricks to get you moving on to another level. Pick a side a little bit more. Okay, see how that's starting to give it a little bit more life. Okay. And then, like I said, after you can kind of take a look at it and see if you do need to darken things just a little bit more in areas. You always do that. Okay, so like I said, when I like to multitask, right? I'm trying to do all of this for now, so I can keep track of all my flowers are done. And then now I'm going to start doing all the back sides of my leaves. Okay, and that little extra shadow. And where it's thicker, you want to bring it out a little bit more too. Okay, so then that way it's just not one big line right across. So you have some movement. So you have some little thicker areas here, comes thin, a little bit thicker here, and bring that out. Okay, and then when you're in the right same direction, come under to this part of your leaf too. Okay, same thing with under, so right here where it's in a little bit of a crook, you can go in a little bit wider with your shading. Right in here, the crook a little bit thinner here, a little bit darker here, thinner here. All those little different thicknesses is what really makes it look more natural. Okay. Just put it in along the line first and then come back and bring some of it out. Okay. And then sometimes I like to go right underneath the vein as well. Just gentle and subtle. Bring it out a little tiny bit so it's not a real strong line. Bring that little bit more depth into your leaf. So hopefully you guys will see better in the pictures. And then what I do is I do all the back sides in the same direction because I have to flip my canvas around to do the other side, right? Instead of flipping your canvas 15 times, try to do all the ones that are in that same direction. Along that line. And then we're going to move our way down. And this helps clean up that little bit of edges too sometimes. Always use the underside of the stems, because shadows are usually always at the bottom. Your light source is the sun usually, so you definitely can get those shadows under there. Make sure you get this right away. If it doesn't dry on you, then you can always go over it with a little bit of highlight and fix that. Darkness through the base here. And feather it out. So we already did the underside of this earlier, but if you feel like you need a little bit more, always add just that little bit more. And then especially behind these little stems too, if there's any of your little stems, want them to look a little bit more behind. A little bit more depth in there. And then I can do the back of this one. I'm going to leave that little bit of a trace of a line there. It just helps to make it look like a ridge. Floating medium. Sometimes I'll just use the back of my brush with the floating medium, guys, and just rinse that out. Work it in, work it down, go over it again. That floating medium around. It'll stay wet for you a little bit longer, right? Because it's got that floating medium in there. Clean up your line. And I'm going to put the shadow on this side of the vein. Okay. So now we can flip our canvas around to do all the other side. Okay, so I'm going to start again on the back side of this one. And actually this one here is, you don't need any shading. I'm going to add a little bit more highlights to that one. And a little bit more on this one. Just where it's flipped. Very subtle start. So you see where you're getting that still that little bit of peak of lighter color in around your shading. Different tones in there. So it doesn't look like it's all camel in there. There's that lighter camel in there too, and then right along the lighter camel is where you have that little bit of a shade. Mm. We didn't do this one. Floating medium. We already played a little bit behind there, so we shouldn't need too much. We want a little bit more shading just subtly behind this little flip here. Lots of dimension there going on now, eh? And so like I said, now you start to see where it's looking a little flat. You need a little bit more shading to give it that little extra hollows. Do it on each side of your little calyx here, or your little stamen, I should say. Okay. And then anywhere you want to fix any highlights, then definitely go over with it with a little bit of bright white and floating medium. And sometimes I only will pop up one side if I feel like I need a little bit more brighter, or I need to clean something up because I hit it with the shadowing. Right, so you can always go over and make just a little bit brighter of a front. Okay, because these are going to pop it out a little bit closer to you than the back of the flower is, right? So if you need to fix anything, usually, like I said, I add only just a bit of highlight to the front of these guys if I need it. Okay. Or if I mess something up. So we can perfect things now. Okay, so then now I'm going to look at my leaves, see where they need a little bit of a pop. Again, sometimes you only want one side of your leaf a little bit more brighter than the other, so it really looks like it's popping out at you differently. Okay, and then I'm going to fix the outside of this leaf now. Make it a little bit brighter there at the tip. Fix any edges I don't like. And then I'll go in and fix this edge. Just disappear. So this side can be just a little bit darker. And then of course we have to fix this guy anyways and brighten it up. Okay, so just little tiny bit brighter there. Excuse me. And then of course you can always come in and fix this guy, brighten that up a little bit more. And bring it out a little bit more so it's not just a line, just a soft gradient. First I go around it, then I kind of go flip-flop to bring it out a little bit more. And then this guy here I need to fix a little bit. Use your fingers, guys. If it's too heavy, erase it. Okay. Very subtle here. And that's about it. All your highlights and shading and little extras. Okay, so this is where I wanted to pop in just that little bit more. If I can get that dry skin off the top of that. Okay, so I don't need much. Okay, so this is where I popped in just that little bit more shimmer. Just right here along the base here of the chocolate. And then if you felt like you wanted it to be a little bit brighter, then definitely pop in a little bit more of that copper. Right. Show you guys a little bit more brighter color. But I really just like the chocolate in there. It just made it so nice and subtle for the background. Okay, but if you want to pop in just that little bit more brightness, just pick up a little bit more copper. Oops, I just got copper all over my canvas. Just out of there before it dries. So I can put just a little bit brighter color in there so they pop out a little bit more. It's a little bit translucent, so you should still all see your gradient in there. And especially if you play around with both shimmers, your chocolate and your copper. And then that's it. I just put that little tiny bit of pop in there like that. And then, like I said, if you still feel like you still need a little bit more of, a little bit more highlights here and there, then definitely you can always pop in a little bit more of your shimmers. Here and there. But remember, guys, if you need to fix anything, okay, so just a little tiny bit of black. And clean your brush. You have no shimmer in there again. And then any little areas that you feel like it's a little bit out of the, thought that was chalk, but it wasn't. Okay, and then just kind of blend that out. And you can go around any edges that you want to tighten up a little bit more. Clean up. Especially in here. Edge there a little bit. You see how that tightens things up a bit more? Where you were a little bit too wide or crooked or something you want to clean up. Feather it out so that it's not a glob, right? Just kind of clean it up. Any areas that you don't like. This is how I make things perfect, guys. I just keep playing with it till I'm happy. Because nobody usually sees all this, but when you take a picture of it and put it on the internet, everybody sees every little flaw. I learned that from the nail industry, because nobody sees your art on the nails. Like 3 seconds, somebody notices your nails and they go, "Oh, that's nice." But if you take a picture of them, put them online, then they seem to pick every little bit to pieces. So, this is where, I definitely like to spend a little extra time and perfect things and play and get it looking really nice. And then you're happy with it. Some people like to do things really, really quickly. I like to play and perfect. Okay. All right. It looks like it's got some nice pizzazz coming out of it, eh?